Hey folks, it's Raina Mermaid coming at you here with another vlog. Hanging out in my lovely, very messy apartment. Shawnee's making dinner behind me. You can't see him, I guess, he's behind the monitor. The kitties are being loud and crazy, so if you hear all this jumping around, that's what it is. I'm doing my best impersonation on Elsa here, even though I haven't seen that movie and I can't even stand the whole franchise. It's not a fish braid, but one of my lovely extensions that I enjoy. Yeah, so I had a wonderful trip to Florida and I got to see Raven and I had some wonderful people who helped us do some cool things. Our friends Shay and Colin got us into the aquarium at a discounted price and I went swimming with sharks and it was so cool, and I want to do a whole vlog and blog just about that. Even though it wasn't in a mermaid tale, I feel like the stuff I learned is still something that would help people or just that they might find interesting. We had Ashley and Crystal, mermaid friends of ours, who got us into Disney, and it was just so cool. I went to be our guest, and they sang me happy birthday, and they gave me the gray stuff, and I didn't even have to ask the dishes because it was delicious. We went to Wiki Wachi and met some senior mermaids, 75-year-old woman who gave my breath hold a run for its money. It was crazy. Speaking of my breath hold, I've been really sick for like 2 months, and poor Shawnee just got over it as well. You can see our monofins hanging in the ceiling there. Yeah, so if I cough, pardon me. Yeah, I was sick and forever, and he was sick, and just on the trip I was really sick and it was difficult, and yeah, the trip was mostly good, but one of the unfortunate things that happened is we had to dismiss one of the mermaids who works for us, and the whole experience was something that I learned a lot from, and I mean the entire process leading up to this I learned a lot, and after the fact and during it, and just all the sort of the issues along the way. And when I am teaching you guys stuff about being a professional mermaid, it's really practical stuff, but I've always kind of shied away from what it's actually like having to be the boss of other people. I was bossy boots when I was a kid. I loved bossing people around, especially my poor little cousins. But as an adult, it's been a bit trickier, and I think a lot of that trickiness comes from the fact that in the mermaid world, we're all friends with each other, and if you're having a business and people are working for you, chances are they're your friends. So that's where things can kind of get muddled. So I've covered a lot of ground in the resources that I've been putting out into the mermaid world, between this vlog, between my books, yeah, that's right, pumping the books, Christmas sales, make sure you're checking for the prices there, the speaking at conventions, the running online workshops and in person, the vlog like what we're doing right now, and answering stuff on my Tumblr. Like, there's a reason why I do all this stuff, and it's because I'm trying to help our field be as professional as possible. I'm hoping you will take this information that I'm giving you and use it to make your company better, so that everyone sees us all on the same level as professionals, and we can make more money, and the media will stop making fun of mermaids and see it as legitimate work, which is totally starting to happen. You know, we used to get media articles that were like, oh, look at the freaks, the mermaids, and now it's like mermaid economy is booming, and that's totally awesome. That's what we want, right? So I do all this stuff, and a lot of it I give out for free because I just want people to better themselves, and if I've learned something the hard way and I can save you the trouble of dealing with the bad stuff, I want to. So this is one of those cases. There were some things I did right, there were some things I did wrong, there were some things I just was ignorant to, and I've learned those all now, so I'm going to tell you like my 10 tips about managing mermaids. And you know, I left things out like oh, you know, do things for group morale and have fun, and those things are obvious, right? Obviously you're going to have fun and you're going to want to make sure everyone's happy, and this is more the technical side of things and stuff you may not have thought of. So I wrote a blog about it, and you can find it at rainamermaid.weebly.com, and it's also linked on the Learn to Be a Professional Mermaid Facebook page. I put a lot of my tutorials on my personal blog because the Halifax Mermaid blog is specifically for stuff that Halifax Mermaids is doing, and this is just sort of Raina, and this way I can kind of put my opinions and things, and it's not associated with the company. Legal disclaimer, I am not a individual who works within the law. While I try to mentor to you guys, I am not like some entrepreneurial expert, so take what I say as a grain of salt, and if you're concerned about specifics where you live, make sure you consult someone who can actually tell you specifics, like a lawyer or someone who works in labor law, okay? right, so let's get into this. Let me see. So number one, there are different types of employees, and in our industry, we don't often use the term employee. If I'm using it employee as a word, it's more because I'm doing that because that's the phrase you probably are used to hearing when someone is working for someone else. In our field, it's more about contractors, and I'm going to elaborate on that. So mermaid companies are set up differently around the world, but many in my experience, if not most, take up the contractor method. There are different labor laws surrounding contracts, so I encourage you to look them up for your country, your state, or your province. But the gist of it is that contractors are not official employees. You do not have any obligations to them for the most part, and you can hire them as you see fit based on your bookings. You don't deduct tax from their pay or benefits or anything like that. It's up to them to do that themselves at tax time. And they're typically put into a roster, so you will have a whole bunch of contractors that you call on. In this setting, the business owner makes all the bookings and delegates to their roster of contractors as they see fit. It's similar to like an agency, right? So it's kind of like the Halifax Mermaids are the agency and the mermaids are like the models, and I delegate. A good example would be like things like first aid instructors. When I was doing that, there was a team of like 100 of us. We were never guaranteed any specific hours, but the business owner would sign a contract of 20 classes, and then he'd delegate them to us. He was under no obligation to choose any of us, just as we were under no obligation to be available for him all the time. In fact, this poor guy, I did all the training. It was super interesting. I loved it so much, and I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna go out there and teach people how to save lives. And then we won the grant money, and I got so busy, and I have had no time for teaching first aid, but I'm still on his roster, and if it ever did work out, I could work for him if he wanted me to. So first aid is a really good example of that. Let's see, some mermaid companies hire based on the specific booking. So if they land a booking that is a month long, and they're working like every day or mostly every day, they may audition someone to be a mermaid for them for that month, or maybe a merwrangler, or a photographer, or just to run like their merchandising stand. So some like ours have a roster of people they pull from for different bookings or based on who is around to fill the slot, and one person might be suited to one type of booking better than another person. And when you have contractors, you can do that. You can juggle it. So in my case, I own the business. I sign the contract for the client, and then I choose from my contracted mermaids based on who will fit the booking and who is available. So the museum hires me. I am a contractor at the museum. I hire my mermaids. They are subcontractors of me. Make sense? Clear as mud? So the benefit of contracting is the flexibility for things like this, but also if they don't work out for you, you are under no obligation to hire them again. Just like if you contracted a band or a wedding photographer for your wedding, you aren't obligated to hire them for every major event in your life. Though if they were really good, you might end up doing that, which is what happens with me. My mermaids are awesome, so I end up just doing everything with them. If you're deciding to work with other mermaids, you're going to have to decide how you want to do this. If you want to own your company together. So Sean and I own the company together. That's a whole different kettle of fish. And if you're going to own a company with somebody, you're going to want to seek legal advice and financial advice and all those good things. You may want to have employees, but that is a whole different thing as well, where you have to give them minimum hours and minimum wage and overtime and job titles, and there's lots of red tape, and it might work for what you're trying to do, but again, you're going to want to consult with someone who can give you the specifics. My suggestion is to go the contract route, so people get paid a set amount for the type of booking that they're doing. So for us, birthday parties, I have a set amount for each birthday party package. A 1-hour birthday party package, if you work it, you get paid X. If you work a 2-hour one, you get paid X. I don't pay hourly, I pay based on the package. And if I get booked for, let's say we get a big contract with the city and we're booked every day for a week, then I would negotiate with the city, a large sum of money to cover all the expenses and everyone's pay, and so each mermaid gets delegated a bit of that. And for my company, everyone's paid the same across the board, depending on the booking. So even me, because I put all my money back into the business. Keep it going. So number 2, get a mentor. If you can, find people who are experienced in your field. A mentor is someone that you can ask them questions, consider them like a teacher. So let's say I don't know if it's good for me to, should I co-own this with this person or should they be a contractor? Well, I can ask my mentor who works in the field and say, hey, what do you think about this? And they're going to give me an answer. It is so common to have mentors. Don't feel like you're putting people out because you aren't. And some people totally love being mentors. Like they totally, like it's one of their favorite things. So like a couple examples. One one of my mentors serves on my board of directors, which I'm going to talk about next. He's an expert in entrepreneurialism. He's run a bunch of his own companies. He's got a long list of companies on his resume that he's had a hand in helping them get off the ground and achieve success. He's in his 60s, so he's been around long enough that he's really seen it all. Like, there's not much, even having mermaids, there's not much I can throw at him that he hasn't seen before. And his mentorship for our business, just for the business end of things alone, with his insight on how I can manage a team of people, like, it has been so helpful. I have a professional mermaid who I don't often get to talk to her, but every once in a while we have a chat on Facebook or on Skype, and she's been doing this twice as long as I have, and she gives me so much advice, and she'll sit Sean and I down and just be like, boom, 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 and it's like the light bulb comes on. One of the best pieces of advice that she ever gave to me is when I'm putting so much energy into negative things in the community, because I get riled up, you know what I'm like, I could be taking that energy and putting it into my business and doing better in my business instead of getting all stressed out on the internet. And it sounds so obvious, but it wasn't for me. So it was great to have my mentor tell me that. There's a couple that we're friends with that own an entertainment business, and they've paved the way in their industry, and they've taught us so much about a lot of the paperwork end of things, insurance, stuff like that, and it's just been so great. There's often free mentorship programs put on through universities, libraries, community colleges, sometimes even put on by your city. Like here we have Women's Employment Outreach, and it's like a volunteer program where you can go and get basically like business tutoring. It's really cool. And of course, you know, if you're really keen, a lot of these places also offer free management courses, or if you're really keen and you've got the money, you can go take a course at a university. You don't have to be doing a degree or getting a certificate. You can just audit a course, which is cool. So number 3, have a board of directors. If you're expecting to manage a large group of people or a large sum of money or just a large franchise of something, it's good to have a board of directors. Your board can be made up of business owners and some of the members of your company, or really whoever you choose, your mentors. Your board are people with the best interest in the company in mind, and it may start out small, and then as your company grows, you add more. And a lot of nonprofits, actually I think all nonprofits where we live have to have a board of directors to help make decisions. And you can come to them when you need insight, mentoring, or help in making big decisions. So our board really came in handy when we won the $10,000 and we needed help planning how to delegate that money. Like, we knew what we wanted to buy with it, but the actual, like, here's a big giant check and here are all the mermaid tails, but getting from point A to point B was not easy, and we needed help in between. It also helped us flesh out a lot of things for our company and sort of restructure things and the website and all kinds of awesome stuff. And board of directors can just be really empowering. You know, it's displayed on TV as like this really annoying thing with people around a desk and they're all arguing, but you know, sometimes it happens like that with really big industries. But in something small like this, you've just got people who want to support you, and everyone needs a support network, right? So number 4 is a really interesting one. Know your personality type and what it means as a leader. So part of what I did for my personal mentoring, pardon me, was I actually started seeing a therapist. It's really stressful running a business and dealing with the person that we dismissed. That was a year in the making, a lot of difficulties, and I felt like I didn't have any control over my business. So seeing and this therapist, she actually specialized in entrepreneurs and performers. She was so cool. Like, this woman worked with Kiss and did all kinds of cool stuff. So not only was she like super smart about like emotions in your brain, she was very like on the level about the entertainment industry and like dealing with contractors and stuff. And one of the things she got me to do was learn my personality type. So some of us may be natural born leaders in life, independent, but we've never formally been a boss or a manager, and that was my case. I always considered myself a good leader because I've had sort of leadership roles, but when I became a boss of other people, I started really doubting myself. And when you have to deal with difficult employees or contractors, you will start to doubt yourself, right? Because they'll make you feel like everything's your fault. Turns out our personality types play a huge role in the type of boss that we are and the type of contractor that we are. So my type, ENFP, we tend to be more big picture bosses and need help seeing the smaller steps and details. We tend to be way too friendly with the people who work with us, which can blur the boundary lines, which is something I learned the hard way. We clash with people who need order and structure. So this is where Sean and I balance each other out. He's very much like steps, and I'm very much like, whoa, all over the place. It's great. we also, my type is very easily manipulated by emotions and guilt. So you can see where if I have a difficult person working for me or a difficult client and they're going to play those things on me, I have a harder time than someone else might. In learning about my personality type, I was able to address these specific issues of my managing style and stop feeling so guilty about them because loads of people are like me. And this ended up helping everyone who worked for me, including myself. It doesn't hurt to have your mermaids do a personality test as well, and then you can actually see like the dynamic in your group. It's really cool. So the personality testing is, it's 16personalities.com/free personality test, and you can just Google it as well. Once you know your personality test, you can then search it on Google and put, so I'm ENFP, so I would put ENFP manager style, boss style, or ENFPs in the workplace, and it shows you how your personality relates to that. It's really interesting stuff. Go do it. It's so cool. So number 5, I'm always harping on about how great insurance is. It makes things safer and more accountable for the Mer community at large. It helps us all get better bookings, better venues, and be seen as professionals. There are multiple ways to insure your contractors, and it's best to address that with an insurance agent. For our company, we insure a max amount of mermaids and tails. So should I decide to add more people and more tails and go beyond that number, I have to be reassessed, which I've done in the past. Totally fine. Went from like 3 crappy tails to 5, 6 amazing ones. And honestly, my insurance only went up a tiny bit. I think it went up $10. So it was fine. So totally just do it. I know insurance can be such a hassle, and trying to find the right people is so hard. But listen, you do not want to be the mermaid that gets caught with their tail down, having no insurance, and a horrible thing happens. It's going to ruin it for everyone. Number 6, background checks. It's common in many fields for even contractors to provide basic background checks, and working with children, I often suggest the criminal background check. In Canada, we have the vulnerable sector search, which includes crimes against children. I also have my Mermaids Do Child Abuse registry checks. Not all states or provinces have that, but they tend to have something similar. And I just keep these forms on file because actually a lot of venues will ask for them. Anything military, anything in the school system, anything where someone is in a vulnerable position, they're going to ask you for those forms. So it's just good to have it, and it's your own peace of mind because you vetted your people who are working for you. It's totally within your right to ask for a criminal background check. And they can write it off as a business expense, is what I do. So number 7, I'm going to touch on some of these briefly. Various contracts and legal documents. So there are a variety of documents you may wish to put in place to protect your interests. And while there are many tutorials and templates online, this is one of those things where it really does do the best to go through a lawyer, because the sanctions and the clauses allowed can vary from place to place and from situation to situation, and some you may want to consider specifically for what you're hiring for. So there's non-disclosure agreements where the people who work for you agree to not divulge any secrets about your company, especially with the intent of aiding your competition or causing the company harm. They also agree to keep company information confidential, and this helps when you're working with kids and clients, because you don't want somebody saying something embarrassing about a client or taking some sensitive information about a child. Maybe this child's in foster care and you find that out because you do the gig, and then they go running their mouth about that and the wrong person hears it. Like, it's not just about protecting the company, it's also about protecting your clients, right? So non-disclosure agreements are great like that, and confidentiality can be built into that or its own separate agreement. It's good to have them as separate as possible. A non-compete. It's standard in competitive or specialized fields for people to sign non-competes. They also vary depending on where you are. It boils down to the people working with you can't just learn all they can from you, including trade secrets, and run off and decide to make their own company or join your competitor. Non-competes typically expire anywhere between 6 months to 2 years, and the severity of the coverage also depends on the percentage of income the job provides to a person. So if you are providing 100% of someone's income, like this is their full-time job, you're not going to get away with saying you can't do this again for 2 years, because that just doesn't work, right? So an employee guide or an etiquette guide, I talk about that a lot in my book and on the website. So typically it's like a rule book, employee handbook, right? You decide the things that are important to you and your company and how you would like people to act professionally. Maybe you dictate what they wear, because if you're kid friendly, you don't want people coming on with pasties. No offense to pasties, ladies. I've seen some beautiful mermaid pasties. I'm just saying. But yeah, so it's basically sort of your values, your professional degree of things and how you want people to behave, and they sign it and agree to that. It doesn't usually do anything for you legally, but if you need to fire someone from your business because they're not following it, you can say, like, it was laid out for you, you signed it, and goodbye. Photo release forms are really standard everywhere. They allow you to take photos of the mermaids and use them for your company purposes, including making money from them. So those are one of the ones where you actually could pull a template off the internet because they are so common and just so easy to enforce that way, so do it. Costume rental, the mermaid agrees to act responsibly with the tail or the costume that you're renting them and to return it within a reasonable amount of time. I didn't have one of those. I'm going to now. So trying to get our things back has been difficult. And just trying to get our things back in general, like over the past year, were difficult. So definitely, if you own the tails and you own the tops and you own the costumes, have some sort of costume rental agreement that they have to sign. You can build this and some of these other things we're talking about into a bigger contract or clause if you wanted. And social media policies are really common with every job. Like, I just started doing contract work that's not mermaid work, it's teaching, and I had to sign a social media policy that basically said I wasn't going to talk about the business on social media, and I wasn't going to try to represent the business on social media. So with mermaids, it's a bit different because people have their fan pages, but you can have a policy that says, when running your fan page in association with our business, you can't do this, this, or this, or please speak this way, or please redirect communication to this. Like, that's within your right if it's part of the umbrella of your business, right? So these are just some of the contacts you may want to use. I could do like a whole vlog just on those. They're standard in the entertainment industry and many other industries, and they will protect your company. You can hire someone and think that they're amazing, but months later they just realize they're not fit for the job, and you don't want to leave them disgruntled and able to just ruin your business. So, and you know what, even when you make people sign these things, some people just don't care and they will break them, and then you have to take legal action, which is what we had to go through. So, you know, it's big, bad, sounds scary, but, you know, some people don't actually read or pay attention to what they're signing. You can't force them to. So, number 8. We're at like 22 minutes and I still have like so much to talk about. Are you like going crazy? I promise it's going to be interesting. Maintaining professional boundaries. Do you ever read books about boundaries? God, boundaries are hard. If you are somebody who grew up and had a difficult childhood, or were ever like abused, or like poverty, or like neglect, you probably have a hard time getting people to respect your boundaries. Like, if you are someone who was walked on at a young age, you probably have a hard time because you didn't learn how to make these statements and make people follow them and respect like who you are. It's so hard. It was a hard one for me, and I suspect it'll be hard for many people. The mermaid community is really tight-knit. Everyone wants to be everyone's friend, and being friendly can create this great kumbaya environment, you know, kumbaya, I say it all the time on my network, but it can also encourage certain types of people to take advantage of you, act unprofessionally, or cross your boundaries. For many of us, we start out making these companies with friends, and there's a lot of benefits to that. I mean, I've known Mermaid Mimi for almost as long as I've been a mermaid, almost. Like, I love Mimi to death. She is the cutest, Rebecca. I just love her. But I'm lucky that Mimi respects me and our relationships. We are able to both be good friends, and she's not intimidated when I have to put on the boss hat. Like, I gotta tell you, one of the most stressful things for me, and it has nothing to do with her, was when we were working independently and I invited her to join my company because I felt like a jerk being like, oh, you want to come in, but I'm going to be your boss. Even though you've been your own boss for a long time, if you join me, I'm going to be your boss, because that's what you do when you invite someone to join your company, right? And God love Mimi. She's just been amazing. And, you know, like, if she disagrees with something, she'll tell me. But the point is that she's respectful and she doesn't cross those boundaries. I also do my best to be inclusive of everyone who works for me, transparent so they know what's going on, and I make sure that we have amazing, cool things to do, so it motivates people to want to help you and work with you. So some mermaids are like Mimi, and they're totally capable of being like this, but some people aren't. Some will blur the lines between friendship and employment, and you'll get yourself in situations where if you don't give them what they want in a professional setting, suddenly you're a bad friend. And everybody on your Facebook knows what a selfish bad friend you are. And it can lead to all sorts of manipulation because you're trying to look at it from a business perspective, but then you've also got this person like manipulating you emotionally, you know, taking these jabs at you, which would be totally different if you weren't friends. Because if you're just a boss and someone does that, it's so much more black and white. But when you're friends with someone and they do that, you start to wonder, like, are they right? Am I those things? And really, they're just saying it to get what they want, right? So some people simply will not respect boundaries. Doesn't matter how carefully or respectfully or professionally or how much you tiptoe around when you put them down. Don't be like me and give people like that a million chances. Because for the most part, except in cases where people do things accidentally and they stick their foot in their mouth, for the most part, when a person crosses a clear boundary, it is intentional. When you ask them not to do something and they do it anyway, they are making a choice to do that. That is not a mistake. And if they do it once, I guarantee you they will do it again because you let them do it. So do yourself a favor. Don't hire people like that again. If you have a situation where your contractor does that stuff, don't hire them again. And you don't have to fire them. You can just not hire them again. A contractor who is disrespectful to you in your personal life is just as likely to be that way to you in your professional life. So tread carefully. Because sometimes you rationalize, you're like, oh, they're not a very good friend, but they're a really good mermaid, so I'll just put up with this crappy behavior because they're a good mermaid. But you know what? They're not really a good mermaid when they're putting you down in front of your other employees, or they're being unprofessional at bookings, or they're putting you in bad situations that are just not professional. Remember, if you've chosen contractors, you do not need to keep hiring them. If someone sets off your alarms, raises red flags, or doesn't fit with your company vision, you do not have to include them. This is where the mer community kind of muddles things up, because I've seen where mermaids have left companies and they've gone on with their big, like, oh my god, blah, 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 and probably they didn't sign non-disclosures or anything. And then the company has to remain professional and maybe has legal reasons why they can't break confidentiality and just come out and say, oh, well, this person was horrible and they punched a person and they did this. Like, they can't just tell you. So we as a community kind of have to get out of business's business, right? Like, unless it directly involves us, we have to stop assuming that just because we have one person's perspective that we know what's going on. Because we often pressure, as a community, companies to include everyone without knowing much of what's going on. And that's just something like the community needs to work on as a whole. If we want to be seen as an industry, we need to treat this as an industry. And that's not something you would do with other industries. I've always been too friendly a boss. Some of my girls are totally fine with that and respect my boundaries and don't take advantage of me. But in the past, I've had people who work for me who took advantage of it. Sometimes a person simply doesn't fit with your vision. Like we said, I have a company where you work with kids. And if you hate kids, you don't fit with my vision. So we're setting us both up for failure. So just don't ask me if you can work for me. In the same vein, you can't be a caregiver to these mermaids. It's okay to be like helpful and be kind and courteous, and someone's going through a bad thing and yeah, you help them out. But at the end of the day, some people will try to bring you their emotional baggage, their issues, and cast you in a role that you aren't. Like, you're not a therapist, you're not a doctor. I'm not saying don't help people, but you need to be careful, especially as a boss. With intimate, close workings like these type of job, you need to be guarded and not allow yourself to be too vulnerable with your mermaids, and don't allow them to be too vulnerable with each other. If it wouldn't be appropriate in a specific way for another field of work, it's likely not for this either. So here's an example. In an office setting, yeah, it would be appropriate to let your boss know, hey, my mom's in the hospital, it's stressing me out, I'm kind of not on my game, like, I just want you to know what's going on. It would not be okay to call your boss up at home and all your coworkers and talk to them hours and hours on time about your relationship with your mother and how her being in the hospital is messing you up, and talk to them for hours on end and then be like, well, this is why I'm miserable. This is why I suck at my job. And I mean, I've been guilty of that, you know, unloading on my my girls as well because of crossing those boundaries of friends versus boss. I've had to deal with a lot, you know, and I tend to be an open book. So it goes both ways. It's not just like you need to keep it back and your girls have to keep it back too, or your guys, or your non-gender specific people. Sorry. Force of habit. I am working on my microaggressions. PC principle. Number 9. Everyone wants to be a professional mermaid. Not everyone should. Does that point contradict me? Does that not sound like a Raina thing to say? I'm usually so pro about people becoming mermaids, and I even published 2 books about people becoming mermaids, and I just put it upside down and backwards. There we go. And I make money off of people trying to be mermaids, and I gain friends off of people trying to be mermaids, and I'm always the first one to say everyone is free to try, so what the heck? What do I mean by that? Well, I always believe that people should be given a chance because this mermaid thing can be empowering. But when it comes to your business, not everyone needs to be a mermaid for you. You don't need to hire a mermaid just because they're there and there aren't many to choose from. You can even train someone up and think they're going to be great and then realize they aren't the right fit and then not hire them. For me, with my company, I need people who can keep their cool around kids. Like, yeah, I get to do lots of other amazing things like the aquatron and stuff, but most of our income comes from kids. You don't like kids, it's not going to work. I'm not going to hire you. I have wonderful friends who make amazing mermaids, and they're great at what they do, but they're not good for my company, and they wouldn't be a good mermaid for me, at least in the capacity for how I do things. And it has nothing to do with how professional they are or what they do. It's just if it's not the right fit, it's not the right fit. I've also hired people who started out seemingly really into my vision, and my vision is this whole learning through play thing. But I mean, it turned out to be an act just to get a mermaid tail and, you know, be in some pictures and get attention. So it's okay to say no to people. It's okay. You should practice saying no more. It's that boundary thing. Number 10, document everything. Don't be afraid of lawyers. Oh my gosh, especially, you know, we're always afraid of it being expensive and stuff, but anything that is official business for your company, like you're talking to people about planning gigs or a meeting or supplies, whatever. If it's business related, it needs to be documented. You need to prove that it was said. So whether it's archiving emails, having copies of contracts that people have signed, copies of texts or written agreements. You know, if I have a phone conversation with my girls about a gig, I follow it up with a written email and I say, okay, so to confirm, this is what you agree to, this is what you'll be paid, these are the hours, please reply back. And so then I have proof. So it can't just be the phone call, right? Because you're not technically allowed to record people's phone calls. So it helps everyone be accountable, including yourself. It lets everyone know the expectations, so everyone knows what they need to do and what's expected of them. And it does help you out should you ever need to seek. What happens is clients will call you up and be like, oh, you're late for this party, but I can go back to the email or the contract and be like, actually, I'm on time and you agreed to this time slot. See? So you can prove it to them, right? So that's, I mean, it sounds like a no-brainer, but we get so busy that we don't do these things, and it's important. Don't be afraid to ask a lawyer for help. Seriously. Some places actually have legal aid that you can qualify for if you're under a certain income. They might just save you a huge amount of trouble and money in the long run. So once you start a business, I really recommend having some kind of slush fund, just money that you are putting aside, even if it's like 20 bucks a gig, 10 bucks a gig, just something, money that you are putting aside should you ever need to use a lawyer. You should have a legal fund. You'll feel better knowing that you have your ducks in a row, and if you ever did need to use the money for a lawyer, it's there. And you know, you can check out reviews on lawyers and find good people, and or see if someone in your friend network or family network is a lawyer who can give you a little like consult or whatever. But they're not the way they're painted on TV, you know what I mean? So it is definitely something you should do. It's important. So those are my 10 points. There are many positive ones I can say too, like support your team, encourage them, empower them, provide cool opportunities and professional development. Like the Halifax Mermaid company has been able to do so much because I work my butt off to make sure that everyone's included. Like a lot of the times when we see these big group things, it started out as one of us, and I've like talked the media or the venue into adding more. Like it's always about getting everyone included. So whether it's winning the big grant, swimming in the aquarium, being on TV or the news, or even just like making a calendar, which I've got on the wall, there's a lot of things that I do for my team because that's the way I am, but I'm kind of hesitant to recommend them to you. They're positive things, but they only work for people who work for you if they're genuine. If you're feeling iffy about people who work for you, then I don't recommend doing it. So as an example, I try to give thank you gifts occasionally to show the mermaids that they're appreciated. I'd also spend my own money to rent pools so we could have our own pool parties without worrying about people being around. Like we do Fishmas every year usually, and maybe sometime in the summer. I try to buy their meals. If they're volunteering for something for me, then I will buy all their meals. That comes out of pocket. But I just try to do something to show them that they're special and that we are thankful for them, especially because my girls do a lot of volunteering. And for summers, that has works perfectly, and it encourages them and they feel appreciated, and it's a two-way street. Like, I'll never forget the time I had a really bad Thanksgiving and Mimi showed up after her Thanksgiving and brought me Thanksgiving dinner. Like, it was so sweet, you know. And you know, Victoria wrote this beautiful post on Instagram once about how I was a mentor to her, and it like made me tear up. Like, you know, like it can totally be a two-way street. But for some people, the difficult types, the ones who don't respect boundaries or the ones who take advantage, it doesn't matter what you give them. It's never going to be enough. It doesn't matter how thankful you are. They're never going to feel appreciated. And they're always going to accuse you of being selfish and having your own interests because that's how they are. So sometimes you just kind of got to use your discretion. These innocent things that we do out of kindness of our hearts can sometimes be enabling or empowering poor behaviors in those more difficult types. And it can backfire, especially with the wrong personality type. I've dealt with some really serious issues since starting my business. I've always wanted to write about them in books, but I was actually really afraid. I didn't want to look unprofessional. I didn't want to name names. I wasn't sure about the legal ramifications, and I didn't want to be negative, and it was just, I don't know, it was like really taboo and tricky for me. So I'm going to talk about some of these things. I'm not going to name names. I'm not saying them to be all like, oh, that mermaid. I'm saying them because I point them out. I want you to realize that even when you have the best intentions, even when you try hard and you work hard, even when you are vetting people and interviewing them and like making them jump through hoops to make sure they fit with your vision, even when you're kind and nice and thoughtful and helpful, sometimes it just doesn't work. Some people are just not going to work for you no matter what you do. So I've had a mermaid show up under the influence of marijuana before, and I've got nothing against people doing what they want in their recreational time, but when we work with children, or we're working for the military, or we're working somewhere, you know, where that would be a bad thing, don't show up stoned. I shouldn't be able to smell it on you. You know what I mean? So I've had a mermaid curse multiple times in front of children at multiple gigs, and I don't mean like a little crap, damn. I'm talking like F-bombs multiple times, really loud and obnoxiously. I've had a mermaid complain loudly in front of the clients about their venue or their event. Like, oh my gosh, we'll never get booked again if this client hears it, and the client hears it and they're looking at me and I'm looking at them and I'm like, oh my god, shut up. Yeah, that was not fun. I've had a mermaid bring a person to tears while they were in costume. They lost their patience, lost their mind, snapped at this person, and 8 hours later we saw this person again and they recognized us and cried again. And that was just terrible. Like, thankfully Sean went out of his way to meet that person and make sure they were okay, and I mean, that was the deciding factor of getting rid of that particular mermaid. It was horrible. It was a horrible, horrible feeling for me to deal with. And sometimes people, the crazy comes out like that and you don't expect it, and you're so shocked at the behavior that you're not acting fast enough to do something about it. I've had mermaids who have lied to me, to clients, to the people around us. I've had mermaids who have tried to turn business contacts against us out of spite. I've had mermaids who have stolen money from the company and money from us. I've had mermaids take my personal mermaid gear and never give it back, and usually without asking. Like, I'm somebody who will give you whatever you ask for, you know, it's a fault. So they'll just take them, and I never get it. It's gone. It was really tricky trying to get some of my stuff back from this last experience we had. I've had mermaids steal mermaid gear, just take it, and needing to get a lawyer to get the gear back. I've had mermaids physically and verbally threaten myself, Sean, or other mermaids on my team, and I've had mermaids on my team feel bullied by other mermaids who worked for us. I've had my birthday twice, separate years, but twice, by mermaids we ended up firing, ruin it. Like, just big plans and trying to do stuff, and their behavior just ruined it. It sucks, and that's my issue of boundaries and having friends as mermaids. I've had mermaids who got away with, and again, I'll talk a little bit more about how that's my fault in a minute, but I've had mermaids get away with sending me really hateful messages. Maybe they've had a drink and they're feeling resentful or cranky or whatever, and I start getting these nasty texts calling me names, or nasty Facebook messages calling me unprofessional or a crappy boss or whatever, and then the very next day they're working a gig with me and they act like it's totally normal. And you would never do that to like another boss ever. Could you imagine like drunk texting your boss at like a university or something and being like, oh Dean, you suck, and then going to work the next day? Like, doesn't happen, right? These are things that even though the mermaids in question were doing them and were obviously wrong, it was ultimately been my failure as a boss for allowing it. And sometimes the situations were things where due to different circumstances we were unable to act right away. In case you're wondering, like, oh my god, why didn't you just kick those people out right away? There were different conflicts of interest and stuff that had to be addressed, and because I am friends with people, that's part of why people get away with stuff, because you're trying to figure that work-friend balance out, and it just causes problems. And I'm not saying don't be friends with people either, it's just you kind of have to really use your discretion. And these moments have been how I have come to learn these 10 points that I've gone over with you. So it's not all glamorous. Like I said, I saw a therapist. I had major anxiety for dealing with these different mermaids who were causing me problems and causing my company problems. And at one point I actually felt suicidal, and I wasn't going to do anything, but I had those thoughts, and I decided to take antidepressants because I was just crying all the time, because I felt like my company was taken away from me. I had no identity, I had no control over it, and I didn't know what to do. I didn't have the skills, didn't have the experience, I did not know what to do, and this person just ran me over, and I didn't know what to do about it, so I was really depressed, and it was a really hard battle getting out of that rut. We all hear things like this. We hear crazy stories and we think, oh, I'll never be like that. I would never let someone do that or talk to me that way. But when you're a new business owner and you don't have the background and you don't know what to look for and you don't know what the red flags are, and people, especially if someone's coming in and they're intentionally trying to play you, that's how it gets the better of you. And it happens to everybody. Everyone gets screwed over one big time in their life at least, you know? So I hope in sharing these tips, some of you who are thinking of joining forces might have a fin up and avoid some of the issues I've had. These things have happened to me over the course of the entire time that I've been running a mermaid company. It's not like one block of time. It's been a learning experience. But it's not all that terrible and bad, you know. I'm just trying to level with you so you know what to deal with. I currently have an amazing team since we've dismissed this person. My current team are all really talented women, and then I've got Sean and my friend Steve, who you've seen help out, merwrangler. Everyone is so strong and empathetic, and they actually believe in my vision, which is just so important. I've realized that. And they build me up and they give me chances so that I can grow as a leader, so that I can empower them and build them up. And they trust me, and they do so many kind and thoughtful things to me. And a friend told me when I was dealing with a situation that sometimes when someone burns you, the fire can actually be cleansing. And after going through this, amen. Like, preach. It's so true. So I've learned a lot from my bad boss experience, and sometimes you can do all these things and someone is still going to screw you over. You can do everything right and still get screwed over. But I have come out stronger and for the better, and I just know that things are going to be really good in the future, and I'm excited, and I feel strong. I feel like, man, I dealt with that, and that really sucked, and that was hard, but I came out swinging, and I'm good. So yeah, so I hope these things help you. I know this was a really long blog, but it was a lot to cover. I think it's probably my longest blog yet by like 5 minutes. So last couple things, the books make great Fishmas presents. This one is like a tutorial on everything you need to know to be a mermaid, really specific stuff. This one is a year in my life, and it tells all the stories of what it was like being a professional mermaid full-time. I don't do it full-time anymore. I work contract during the winter, which is our off-season, and then I am full-time in the summer. Sometimes it feels like full-time though, because it's freaking so much work. You ever hear that quote that says an entrepreneur will work 80 hours a week to avoid working 40? It is so true. So the books, check out makemeamermaid.com to find them. If you check Learn to Be a Professional Mermaid Facebook page, I'm constantly posting the sale prices, the discount codes. So yeah, they're often like anywhere from 30 to 50% off or free shipping, so make sure you get that. I wanted to put in a little plug for the beautiful Wiki Wachi Mermaid calendar, all full of Raven's tales, and a bunch of our tales are actually in there. You might recognize some if you take a look. So 3 of my tales that I own are in here. My birthday tale that I was given last year, and then 2 of the company tales, a she creature and a blue tail. And I wanted to give a little shout out. You know, we're doing this work with the Aquatron. I'm going to talk about that later. I have to get some clearance before I do the Aquatron video because it involves university staff and students and engineers and stuff, so I need to get like PR permission before I can do that vlog and show you all about swimming in an aquarium. But the daughter of the guy who runs the aquarium made us this awesome picture. Look at this! It's so cool! Look, I'm in the middle. And I think she even put Mermaid Iona in there. It's so sweet. I love it. It's just so great. So I hope these vlogs are helping you. I know this was kind of heavy, but if you have any more questions, just hit me up in the comments section or send me an email. I use the contact form on halifaxmermaids.com or on my blog, rainamermaid.weebly.com. And I want to know what other topics you want to cover, because we have fiber up now, so I can just like shoot these videos out like nobody's business. So once again, thank you for your support. Check out makemeamermaid.com and have a great weekend.